Okay, today we are going to talk about a very useful bushcraft and camping knot specific to the use of tarps, whether that's over your hammock or whether it's for ground shelter or tying up a rain fly or a lean-to or what have you. Whatever purpose you might have for a tarp, well, this is a knot that's pretty specific to that. I need to preface what it is exactly this knot is good for before I show you how to tie it, and we'll get right into that. A couple of weeks ago, I was having a conversation with one of my viewers. He turned me on to a nicely priced outdoor tarp. I've been looking at it, and while I'm not prepared yet to offer opinion about this, it did make me think about this knot set because it's missing tie-outs. It has grommets in all four corners, and that's it for attachment points. So I was thinking about, how a person might attach this tarp to tie-outs to secure it in wind and storms, and even having it in just some other configuration besides a diamond. So I was thinking about it, and what we have here on the table is a poly tarp here just out of the bed of my pickup truck. This lives under my toolbox, and this is what we'll use for demonstration. If you are without tie-out points and grommets and things of that nature on the tarp that you have, there are a couple of things you can do to create attachment points. One of those is tarp clips. I'm meant to bring some with me to show them on camera here, and I forgot them where they're sitting in the shed. So I'll roll in a picture here of a couple of different kinds of tarp clips, and I will say that these are certainly a viable option if you want to carry such things. They're okay. If you're going to choose some tarp clips, my opinion is, pick those ones that have the screw down on them. The ones with different kinds of compression fasteners in them, stepped compression fasteners to keep those clips shut. They're difficult to open, they're difficult to deal with, they're more trouble than they're worth. The ones that screw down are very secure, easier to deal with. I don't like them, but a lot of other people do, so I'm not going to knock them too hard. I have used tarp clips on poly tarps and a couple of canvas tarps out on the farm and in other places, and they have their place, but as far as I'm concerned, their place is not in my bag. Button in a tarp. That's what this is all about. Instead of using tarp clips, and if you've ripped out a grommet, and this is a great example right here. You see this grommet is damaged. Not trustworthy because it's all bent up and damaged. This will rip out here pretty soon and damage this tarp if I continue to use it. An alternative to using clips or relying on grommets that are built into a tarp is making a button out of maybe a stone or a pine cone or a piece of wood that you've made smooth with your knife. The other thing is, if you're at the beach, you can actually just use a handful of sand. Making a button is as simple as taking your stone or whatever else and wrapping it into the material and tying a string around it. And now you've got, if I were to tie any sort of a knot in this, it could be as simple as a shoelace knot. You now have a very secure place to tie off to. Okay, now while we're talking about that, there are some commercial products to make buttons with. Tarp Buddies. I think Brian at Survival on Purpose did a really nice video on these. You should go check that out. Again, as far as I'm concerned, these have their place, and that place is not in my backpack. But I'll show you how these work. They've got a nice groove in them, and then a place to, you know, tie off to. So you can plant this right in your tarp and tie a string into that groove, and then you've got a nice secure place to have an attachment point that's already built into one of these. These are worth owning, and I think that these are more worth owning than tarp clips, just by the way. But again, they have their place, and my feeling is that that place is not in my backpack. I mentioned that you could do something as simple as take a handful of sand, and if you were to pour a handful of sand in here, you would have a place to tie off a string and make a nice button. Okay, so that brings us to the button set. This knot that is very useful to carry with you if you've got a tarp that, you know, whether you're relying on grommets, or if it lacks tie-out points, or if you're just thinking ahead and you think it's possible you could destroy a tie-out or a grommet. Having a couple of these in your pack is not a bad idea. Well, that's what that knot looks like, and I'll show you how to tie it. What we have here is, on one end of this we've got a bowline knot, and on the other end we have a hangman's noose. So what this does for you is, when you are going to take something to make a button with, instead of having to tie the knot, a slip knot or whatever else, you can just put the noose around it, tighten the noose, and then the other end of the line already has a nice attachment point that you can hook whatever other guy line you might be thinking of to. You can make these longer. Here's one here that was made out of 48 inches of string. This is, you know, it may very well be long enough to tie a button and then stake this out to a stake. It's already long enough to do something like that with. It's got a noose on one side to tighten around a button, and then on the other end there is a bowline knot that, you know, these are very secure. As far as me showing you how to do this, before we get to that, I'll show you what I actually carry. And what I actually carry is not paracord done this way. I made this for demonstration purposes, but I don't actually do this with paracord myself, even though, you know, this is 26 inches of paracord here, and, you know, it's like 4 grams to carry. It's very small. I go even more minimalist than that with these. I make them out of bank line. This is 26 inches of bank line with a noose on one end and a bowline on the other, and there you go. You know, this is less than 2 grams. Okay, so this is about a 38-inch piece of paracord, and I'll show you how this knot is done. But I'm not gonna go overboard here. If you want to know how to tie knots, there are very, very many resources for knots on YouTube and on the internet. If you're interested in probably the best videos on how to tie knots, I suggest you visit the channel ITS Tactical. He has done a Knot of the Week series that has gone on for, I don't know, forever. That guy does great knot videos. So if you're interested in learning these knots on YouTube, visit ITS Tactical. Okay, to make a noose, and we want to start with the noose because it takes the most cordage to create. When the noose is tied, there'll be, you know, a nice tag end, but while you're tying it, it takes quite a lot of the space of your cordage or rope. So we make an S shape, like this out of our cordage, and we lay these three pieces together like this, and then your working end overhand, and you want to get 6 to 8 wraps. So the first time you try it, you may end up with too short of a working end. You know, this might take a couple of tries. But there. Now you're going to need a little tag end. And I'm going to dress this up just a little bit and secure it just a little bit before I tie this off. And then just pull it through this loop that we've got left of the back of our S, and then tighten down that loop. And you'll see that tightening down that loop secures your tag end inside the knot. So there. That is a noose. We have just tied, you know, basically a hangman's noose in one end. So now I slide this noose down, and that would be the end that, you know, goes around your button to tie your button. Okay, so the other end of the string gets a bowline knot, and these are pretty easy to tie. I have trouble doing it looking at the camera, you know, but it's super simple. There we go. There is a bowline knot. This isn't my prettiest, but it can be dressed up a little bit, and then this tag end can be nipped off because we don't need it. So we'll nip off that tag end, make my knot look a little bit more normal. And there you have it. That's it isn't going anywhere. That's a bowline knot. And then of course, if you're using paracord, you know, clean your ends with a lighter. Okay, we gotta let that cool before I handle it. I splashed a little hot plastic on my finger already, but there we go. There is a, you know, there's a button set. Okay, so, you know, here's one of those tarp buddies. We'll just do this for, you know, for the moment here. This is what we end up with. Is, you know, a super easy, super quick. We don't have to worry about tying any knots while we're out in the field. We're already prepared. And there, you know, we just cinch down that noose onto the button, and this could be again a rock, a handful of sand, a pine cone, so many other things, as long as, you know, there aren't any sharp edges to poke through your material, whatever your tarp's made out of. The more wind there is, the more pressure that's on this, the tighter it gets, the more secure it gets. And even after putting a ton of pressure on it, it's still something you can remove. So there we have it. That's what I have to say about this. That's the useful knot that I wanted to talk about. This is a button set. It is a bowline on one side and a hangman's noose on the other. And if you've got 2 or 3 of these in your kit with your shelter system, you know, if you've run into a situation where you've destroyed a grommet, ripped a tie out, need another attachment point where one does not exist, have too few attachment points on the device that you're using, Well, there you go. You know, you can be prepared for that ahead of time so that you're not messing with this out in the field when bad weather has caught you. Okay, that's it. That's the sum total of this video. Okay, so if you found this information to be at all useful, I'd appreciate it if you'd click that thumbs up button down there. And you know, if you aren't a subscriber already, you know, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I think I've got some pretty good videos behind me, and I think that there's some interesting content coming up that if you are interested in this, you might be seeing some things on my channel in the near future that will also be interesting to you. Okay, I really appreciate the time you folks take watching my videos. I appreciate the nice things people say down in the comments and in the forums that I participate in. You know, I really hope the rest of your day goes really, really well. Bye-bye now.